Tēnā koutou and welcome to this video on how to make a submission on Plan Change 120 and the proposed August 2026 amendments to the plan change. Since Plan Change 120 was originally notified in late 2025, changes have been made to the Resource Management Act to reduce the minimum housing capacity Auckland Council is required to enable through the Auckland Unitary Plan. These changes also allowed Auckland Council to propose amendments to Plan Change 120 to respond to this reduced housing capacity requirement. In July 2026, the Council decided to propose amendments to and partially withdraw Plan Change 120. Submissions are now open on Plan Change 120 and the proposed amendments from the 27th of August to 5 p.m. on the 24th September 2026. Anyone can make a submission on Plan Change 120 and the proposed amendments during the submission period. Submissions allow you to express your views on the plan change and the proposed amendments and to let Council know whether you want parts of the plan change and the proposed amendments kept, changed or deleted. If you made a submission previously, you do not need to make another submission unless you would like to make new or different requests. There is a lot to digest in Plan Change 120 and the proposed amendments, but remember there are a number of resources available to help you understand what is proposed and how to be involved. These resources can be found on the Plan Change 120 webpage. They include a series of information sheets and frequently asked questions that explain key parts of Plan Change 120 and the proposed August 2026 amendments. There are also information sheets explaining how to use the dual map viewer and tips and tricks for making the most of your submission. There is a Friend of Submitter service, which is a free service provided by independent planning consultants and which is available to anyone who may be unsure of how they are affected or of how to make a submission. Further details on this service are available in information sheet number 2, Friend of the Submitter, which can be found on the Plan Change 120 webpage. There is a how-to video on using the map viewer for Plan Change 120 and the proposed amendments. And finally, all other supporting materials, including public notices, maps, proposed changes to the text in the Auckland Unitary Plan, can be found on the Plan Change 120 webpage. You can access all plan change materials and submission forms through the Auckland Council website. From the home page, search for Plan Change 120 in the search bar. In the search results, click on the box that says PC 120 Housing Intensification and Resilience. This will take you to the landing page for PC 120, where you will find a few different links. At the bottom of the page, you will find links to the dual map viewer, information on the Friend of Submitter service, and web pages for PC 120 as originally notified in November 2025 and for PC 120 proposed amendments as of August 2026. In the blue bar, you will find links on making an electronic submission and for withdrawing your submission. Remember, if you are making a submission, this needs to be made in the proper form in order to be properly documented and recorded through the process. A new form has been prepared for this submission period, which differs slightly from the earlier form. Several options are available to those wanting to make a submission, including an electronic version of the submission form or a PDF submission form, which can be downloaded and either emailed or mailed into the Council. Previous submitters can also withdraw their submissions by contacting Auckland Council by email at unitaryplan@aucklandcouncil.govt.nz or by completing the withdrawal form on the PC 120 webpage. Remember though, if you withdraw your submission and do not make a new submission, you will not be able to participate further in the plan change process, including hearings. The PDF submission form and information on where to send your PDF submission is available by clicking on the Proposed Amendments to PC 120 link on the landing page. This video will primarily talk through the electronic submission form. However, many of the same principles will apply if you are using the PDF submission form. To make an electronic submission, click on the Make a Submission link in the blue bar on the landing page. Clicking on the link takes you to a new page which tells you some important information you need to know before you start. Please take the time to read this carefully. Remember that your submission will be made publicly available for transparency through the plan change process. As such, please make sure you do not include any private or sensitive information you would not want published publicly. You can see our privacy policy for more information. The Council expects to use artificial intelligence to assist with reviewing and summarising of submissions. Any use of AI will follow the Council privacy policy and our obligations under the Privacy Act 2020. For more information, refer to the Frequently Asked Questions on the PC 120 webpage. It is recommended that you complete the submission form in one sitting to avoid having to restart the submission from scratch at a later point. When you are ready to start your submission, click the blue Start button at the bottom of the page. This will take you to the first page of the submission form, which will ask you to fill out your contact details. Note that some fields in the submission form have an asterisk next to them. This means you need to complete these fields in order to move on to the next step in making your submission. The address for service is a mandatory field. Email address for service is preferred. However, if you do not have an email address, enter your street address here. If you are submitting on behalf of an organisation or community group, make sure to tell us in the relevant field. Once you have completed all relevant fields, click the blue button at the bottom of the page to move on to the next page of the submission form. Remember, you will not be able to move on to the next page until you have completed all fields marked with an asterisk. Page 2 of the submission form will contain most of the content of your submission. First, you will be prompted to tell us whether you made a previous submission. If you did make a previous submission, an additional question will appear. This question will ask you what your previous submission number is. If you are unsure what your earlier submission number was, click on the link. A page will open up in the new tab that allows you to search for your submission. You can do this by entering your name in the search bar and hitting search. Remember, you need to enter your name as it was spelled in your earlier submission to make sure that it shows up in the search results. Once you hit search, a series of search results will appear. Once you find your name, you will be able to see the submission number. In this case, the submission number is 10678. In the window you have open with the submission form, enter your submission number. The next field is very important. You need to tell us what requests you would like to make of the plan change and the proposed amendments. You may want to keep, amend, or delete either words or maps in the plan change. Be as specific about what you would like as possible to make sure that this is accurately recorded and summarised. Do not include your reasons for the requests here. You can put your reasons in the next field. Tell us the reasons for your request or requests here. Your reasons help Council and the panel to understand your rationale. The next mandatory question asks whether you would like Plan Change 120 and the proposed amendments to be approved, approved with any changes you requested, or declined. Finally, upload any supporting documents you may want to include. Remember, do not include private or sensitive information. Supporting documents and any evidence you supply will assist the Council and panel in considering your requests. You can upload up to 3 supporting documents in PDF format only. These cannot exceed a file size of 10 megabytes. Once you have completed all mandatory fields, hit the blue Next Step button. Step 3 of the form will ask you 2 questions: whether you would like to be heard in support of your submission, and whether you would consider presenting a joint case at a hearing if others made a similar submission. You will need to answer both of these questions to move to the final step of the form. Hit Next Step once completed. The final step asks you whether you could gain an advantage in trade competition through your submission, and whether you are directly affected by an effect of the proposed plan change and proposed amendments to the plan change. You will need to answer both of these questions. Finally, you will be asked to make a declaration to confirm that your submission will be made public and that you acknowledge that AI may assist the Council in summarising submissions. Once complete, hit the blue Finish button. You will then be directed to a web page acknowledging you have made your submission. Congratulations! You will receive an email confirmation within 30 minutes of submitting the form, which contains a copy of the completed electronic submission form for your records. The Council team will also email you within 10 working days to acknowledge receipt of your submission. If you do not see the screen after completing the submission form, the submission did not go through. You will need to relodge your submission. As a reminder, if you would like to mail or email a submission to the Council, use the PDF form and the mailing and email addresses listed on the PC120 web page. The PDF form contains the same information as what has been covered here. Thanks for watching this video on how to make a submission on Plan Change 120 and the proposed amendments. For more information about Plan Change 120, visit the Auckland Council webpage or click on the link shown here.